Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back to Congo Unfiltered with Friends of the Congo. I'm your host. In case you don't know me, my name is Gaëtan-Dauphin Nzowo, and this is my first episode back after much needed break. I got married, guys, or I got married. So yeah, that's something to celebrate. I got married finally, 2 years, but I had to take a break, focus on myself, and do all of that. But while I was away, the world obviously kept spinning, kept moving forward. Congo, U.S. foreign policy never stopped making headlines. So, from the peace deal that happened back in July to consistent civilians' death, or even other stuff happening here in the U.S., right? That is affecting immigrants or indirectly Congo. Uh,
Mm.
we I missed a lot, essentially, especially particularly the violence in the East. I had to unplug. So today I am catching up. And if you two are trying to figure out what happened, what's going on, this is the best place to be tuning right now. And who better to guide me through it than Maurice Carney, the executive director of Friends of the Congo. Brother Maurice, welcome back.
Thank you. Welcome back to you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, but let's get into it. I mean, like really, it's like seriously, what did I miss? Because I was disconnected from social media, and I think I came back with a tweet, two tweets last week, one in French and one in English. And in French, I was asking folks, what did I miss? And
Mm.
it seems like I've missed a lot. And even one brother of mine, Poncia, that I salute, said to me, I was better off on vacations. So, so what did I miss? What did I miss?
Wait, what did they say when you did the tweet? What kind of responses did you get? What was the comments that you found to be most compelling?
While that I should have continued to be on the break because Congo is continuing to go down in a hole. There is a
Mm.
lot of things happening in terms of the violence with the ADF, and I'm
Mm.
still trying to gather much more information that I can around the ADF, the supposedly Islamic tied, or the group, the Congolese militia groups that has tied with ISIS
Mm.
in the Congo and Eastern Congo. Um, so also internal politics, Congolese politics, obviously with President Tshisekedi.
Mm.
So just a lot to even like. I really couldn't catch up by just reading tweets or reading
Right,
what people
right.
said. So it would take me days. So I was like, maybe let's do it in a conversation that
Mm.
will obviously be public. And Congo Unfiltered was the best spot that Friends of the Congo put in place, particularly to discuss issues of the Congo, to inform, to educate. And I thought that for my first time back from vacation, you will be the great, I would say, guest
Oh,
for
awesome,
with whom I
awesome.
could discuss that. So yeah,
Yeah.
what did I miss? And for the audience, what should they know regarding the Congo in recent news? I was gone for 3 weeks, and like I said, a lot went by. So
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of interesting, Gaetan, because the fundamental pillars, right, are still intact, and the question is the narratives that are swirling around those pillars. When I say fundamental pillars, we're talking about a country that is steeped in colonial legacy, right? Uh, that's spectacularly wealthy, and you have agents of neocolonialism, and the likes of Yoweri Museveni in Uganda and Paul Kagame in Rwanda, who've been who've piled on to that colonial legacy, right? Rwanda. If you talk to Rwandans who are in support of Kagame, they're like, "Well, the problems didn't begin with us in Rwanda, right? Congo has this colonial legacy, right? The West has, pilfered the Congo." But the thing that they fail to mention is that Rwanda has joined the West in that pilfering. It has served itself up as an agent of the empire, right? In its ravaging of the Congo. It's not like, so they're saying that don't blame us for the current situation, the way the Congo is. We didn't start it, but you've made it worse, right? In the sense that your leader, Paul Kagame, and his, co-conspirator, Yoweri Museveni, they've waged a 30-year war of plunder and aggression against the Congolese people. So the challenge is for us is to continue to share that narrative that's grounded in historical evidence, in spite of the propaganda that's on high octane that we see swirling. And that brings us right back to before you left, the central question of the dominant question, rather, of justice, right? Remember, we had invited 4 women from the Congo, from the east of the country, to come to Washington to inject themselves in this peace and minerals deal, which is the dominant track right now as it relates to advancing "quote unquote" peace in the country. And the women said, "Well, there are a lot of things happening about our country that we're not consulted on, we're not a part of, right? There are deals that are being made in Washington that about our lives, our future, our children's future, but we don't have a say in those, deals." So that has continued, and one of the key pillars that the women, made up of women from Synergie des Femmes, laid out is this question of justice and how it is that in all these deals, justice is not being served. The concerns of those who've been afflicted, primarily women and children in the east of the Congo, are not on the table, right? So everything else is on the table. So that stream, where Washington remains a dominant force, and along with Doha, Qatar, those 2 peace tracks, let's say, right, have eclipsed all the others. Whether we're talking about the East African Community peace track, or we're talking about the East African Community and the Southern African Development Community peace track, what they call the East African Community was the Nairobi Accords, or whether it's the African Union initiative, best represented by the Rwanda peace process, whether it's the former heads of state that the African Union has impaneled. All of those efforts take second fiddle to Washington. So what is happening in Washington is, for all intents and purposes, determining the fate of the Congolese people. And not just the Congolese people, because there's an element to what's happening in Washington. They talk about a peace accord, and then they also talk about a minerals deal. African intelligence says like a $3 trillion deal. I don't know about the numbers, but when it comes to numbers in the Congo, they fly, wild, right? So, but in any case, Washington is determining the fate of Congo. And if Washington is determining the fate of Congo, Washington is determining the fate of Africa, because as Congo goes, so does the continent. And what's being set up is for the heart of the African continent to be captured by the billionaire class, right? We're talking about folks like Gentry Beach, Donald Trump's co-chair of his finance campaign, who's got his eyes set on Rubaya, the coltan mine that's been captured by the M23 and the Rwandans, right? We're talking about the likes of Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and Michael Bloomberg, who are investors in a company called Cobalt Metals out of Berkeley, California. And they've raised $1 billion to pursue lithium mines in southeast Congo. I think it's in the Tanganyika province, where they've just recently entered into an agreement with the Congolese government.
The government, yeah.
For that concession, and also the mapping of the minerals in the Congo. Even though there's, the Australian company, AVZ, I believe, Australian and Chinese company, they claim the rights to, the Monono lithium mines. So and Washington is upped its role. And one of the reasons being in Washington, Washington is upped its role in the Congo. You have a slew of Congolese politicians coming through Washington, right? I was thinking today, I was like, it's quite possible that the Congo has the highest number of lobbyists among African countries in Washington. It is possible because
really,
I'm just saying we need to look at it and see. I don't have the data for it, but I started thinking about it. It's like, okay, the opposition they have lobbyists in Washington. You had Jacqueline, the state mining company, had lobbyists in Washington. The president's office had lobbyists in Washington, right? All these, these Congolese dollars are being spent, on K Street lobbyists in Washington. The only people that are not paying lobbyists in Washington are the Congolese people, and I hope we can balance that a little bit with friends in Congo. So
it's funny that you actually say that. Now that you're saying that, talking about lobbyists, Congolese lobbyists, I think it was so messy because there are a lot of lobbyists right now representing different entities, particularly even within the government. There are different people who, like, the government has hired, so because there is just no control, right? Like, they have so many lobbyists that it was so messy that there was an internal memo that had to be sent or published actually by the president, suspending all of those lobbyists speaking on behalf of the government and saying that from now on, particularly regarding the issue of the Congo and the mineral deal that was being discussed, that the Congolese government or the president will be speaking directly to the Trump administration. So to me, the fact that they had to put that letter out there, I'm like, how? Like, it seems like they have so many lobbyists that sometimes they will just overbook themselves. Like you're gonna go and talk because you represent today an MP that has tie with the president, and tomorrow you're gonna meet with the lobbyists that has that was sent or hired by the prime minister, and then the following day it's actually the president. So it's really chaotic. So yes, that's something to point out. Yeah,
that's something to check into. I mean, there's even one instance earlier, I think it was maybe earlier this year, it may have been in 2024, where lobbyists set up a meeting with members of Congress to discuss mineral deals in the Congo, and they had to cancel it because I guess word came from up top, high up in Kinshasa, like, hey, this lobbyist no longer has, our confidence or whatever it was. So the point is, though, the main point is, like, in a lot of respects, right, in the current situation, the future of the Congo is being determined in Washington, right? Yeah. And by extension, Africa, where if things go as Donald Trump would like, if things go as Paul Kagame would like, if things go as Felix Tshisekedi would like, then the heart of the African continent and the spectacular wealth therein will be captured by the billionaire class in the United States, from which Tshisekedi would benefit, Kagame would benefit, but the Congolese people and African people writ large would pay a dear price, right? So that's the that's the structure that we're and the path that we're currently on. And the Congolese people in the world is being sold a notion that, and Donald, who's a better salesperson for this than Donald Trump himself? He's like, I brought peace to the Congo. They're chopping each other's heads off for 3 decades, right? When in fact, the east of the Congo is still very much occupied by Rwanda and its M23 militia. An interesting note, Gaëtan, to which I think it's minor but important nonetheless. Early on in this conflict, the corporate media would report that the M23 is occupying Congo. UN says Rwanda is involved, and then the corporate media will quickly say, but Rwanda denies its involvement, right? However, over the last few months, there's been a shift, almost without exception. If you read about the M23 in the Congo, the corporate media will say Rwanda-backed M23, which is what we've been saying,
which is positive.
since day one, right?
Saying, yes.
So in terms of the importance of the narrative, right, in telling the truth. You know, one of the folks in the East, who's under occupation, he's like, tell the truth. One of the things you can do for us is tell the truth. So Rwanda backed M23. So that it says to a large degree that angle of propaganda on the part of the Rwandan government, Paul Kagame, it's not working, right? So we have to continue to articulate the narrative about what is actually happening. And we see that from reports from Amnesty International, reports from Human Rights Watch, right? They talk about the Congolese brothers and sisters in occupied territory being victims of summary executions, trafficking, sexual violence, the whole bit. And I think I shared a few of those reports with you that you can post. I think since July, 300 plus people have been killed in the occupied territories of the east of the Congo. So as wheeling and dealing takes place in Washington, as discussions unfold in Doha between the M23 and the Congolese government, we see that the Congolese people, civilian population in the east of the country, who are under occupation by the Rwanda-backed M23, the M23 that the United Nations says Rwanda commands and controls. The M23 that the United Nations says Rwandan soldiers are embedded, the tune to 4,000 to 7,000 Rwandan soldiers. So we must not lose sight of this fact and reality that what's unfolding in the East is being orchestrated by Congo's neighbors with a full backing, still to this day, of the Western powers, the United States, the European Union, UK. They would not be able to do what they're doing, Paul Kagame, Yoweri Museveni, without the arming, the financing, the training, the intelligence from the West. And of course, when there's an attempt to hold them to account for the crimes that they've committed in the Congo, we see that these same Western backers run either political or diplomatic interference in order to cover for those crimes. So Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, there's a piece there from the New Humanitarian, a really good piece that documents the killings, right? As it says, widespread abuses that have taken place since the signing of what they call the Washington Accord on June 27th of this year. So that's one key stream that I think, with your coming back, we ought to really stay on and continue to press on, before June 27th, for the people, or after June 27th, for the people living in the Congo is not different than before June 27th, right? It's like that. Remember when the Belgians were, kicked out of Congo, and General Belgian officer Janssen, he gathered the Congolese military that he was over, and he says, after June 30th is equal to before June 30th, right?
And the Congolese soldiers were mad.
Right, that's certainly in the consciousness of the Congolese population, right? So after June 27th is equal to June 27th, and maybe even worse, because the notion on the part of the world, especially with the president of the United States saying he's brought peace to the Congo, the notion that things have changed for the people is, is flatly false.
One thing you said at the beginning that and is true, that what's going on in the Congo really is dependent to what is being decided in Washington D.C. And Washington D.C. under President Trump's leadership, obviously, he wanted to have peace, right? He wanted the Congo and Rwanda to sit at the same table and agree to have peace. And you and I have discussed in long, and I actually had a 3-hour show digging into the peace deal, right?
Yeah.
The peace accord, line by line, article per article, and how that did not look like peace, the peace deal, especially on the from a Congolese perspective. But when you look at what, for example, I'm going to share that here, what the the UN Senior Advisor for Africa said. He said the United States is encouraged by continued negotiation between the DRC and M23, facilitated by the state of Qatar, building on July signing of the Declaration of Principle between the DRC and M23. This week talks are a critical step toward reaching a peace agreement that will enable communities in the region to live in peace after decades of conflict. We reaffirm our call for an immediate end to violence against civilians and underscore the need for concrete action to uphold commitment to peace and stability. And even that was posted, that was before I go on vacation, August 21st. So what the US really wants when you talk about wanting to have peace, but at the same time, you seem not to hold the party that is the aggressor responsible. You don't even name it. It's nowhere to be found in the accord, in the peace accord, like I said, that even in statements and that was published after the reports with the UN report talking about over 319 people, civilians killed, including children, 19, I believe, children. That was not mentioned there. And then even what we just discussed, we mentioned this one by where is it? Let me just put it. Yeah, there you go. The human rights report talking about the mass killing that happened in the same area. The UN said 300 people, they say 140 civilians. But it's the facts still like are matching. Like there is atrocity committed by the Rwanda Defense Force against civilian population, and they actually went like they really went deep into the specificity about like who were targeted, and two groups primarily were targeted: the Nande and then the Hutu. And so I'm really trying to understand, how can you pretend that you really want to bring peace to a country, to a region, if you do not stop the person who is perpetrating the violence? We can talk about the Congolese states, the Congolese government, the Congolese government, I would say, responsibility into the situation, and I've done that many times. But Rwanda is the occupier in this case. Rwanda is the one, yes, the aggressor, the occupier. Rwanda is the one that left his territory, went deep into Congolese territories, and that is essentially causing havoc. So what's the US strategy in terms of like what are they expecting from these?
That's a really important point, because what you're laying out, and those killings, the 140 that Human Rights Watch has documented, the 300 plus since July that the UN has documented, things have gotten so bad, Gaëtan, while you're gone, that the US had to issue a call for a meeting at the Security Council, the UN Security Council. I think you have that link, right? Yeah. To discuss the killings, the continued killings that were taking place after the quote unquote, after the peace signing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think what's really important for people to pull, really get into and pull from the June 27th Washington Accord, right? It's really an accord among elites, right?
Yeah.
It's an accord among the local elites in Kinshasa, right? The regional elites represented in Kigali,
Mm-hmm.
and then the global elites in Doha, the global elites in Washington, right? So it's an accord, like a conspiracy of elites, right? That they all agree on, and they agree on it on that accord because they get certain benefits, right? I think it's, I don't know, number 6 in the accord, regional economic integration, the framework,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's where Rwanda, gets to cleanse the illicit trade in minerals from the Congo into licit trade in minerals, right? They get to process and refine, according to that regional economic integration of the peace accord. And then Tshisekedi in Kinshasa and the corrupt elite political class in Kinshasa, they get to hold on to power, right? And they get to present a picture to the opposition that is persecuting anyone who's exercising any kind of dissent, that, hey, Washington backs us. We can do what we want because Washington has got billions of dollars at stake in our country, and we're the custodians of that deal. Therefore, we have like carte blanche to do what we can. And by the way, we get to stay in power because the M23 in Rwanda, they're no longer going to be looking, to come to Kinshasa in any way, right? So they go ahead.
Yeah, just to remind the audience, that's the peace agreement between the DRC and the Congo, published on June 27th, and then the article, the point 6 that Brother Maurice was mentioning, was a regional economic integration that sees the bilateral integration, the regional integration, economic oversight. Parties shall establish or utilize independent economic audit and anti-corruption mechanism to monitor mineral supply chains, infrastructure, and any future economic agreement between the parties as set out in the regional economic integration. And for the bilateral integration, I think that was also very important. Under the framework, the parties shall launch or expand cooperation shared priorities such as national park management, which is in the Congo, talking about the Virunga Park, hydropower development, de-risking of mineral supply chains, joint management of resources in the Lake Kivu, and transparent, formalized end-to-end mineral value chains from mine to processed metal that link both countries in partnership as appropriate with the U.S. government and U.S. investors. So this is what the aggressor, Rwanda, will be benefiting.
The reward.
Yes.
The reward for killing 7,000 Congolese since the start of the year. The reward for occupying Eastern Congo's 2 largest cities in Goma and Bukavu, right? So when those women came here, or when Dr. Denis Mukwege, Congo's Nobel Peace Prize laureate, publishes a long piece that justice is absent from these deals, you see it, how it's, what they're talking about here. And if justice is absent from the deal, then you definitely know that peace and security are not attainable, right? So we shared how Kagame, the regional elite, how Tshisekedi, the local elite, and then you have the global elites, the Trumps and the Gentry Beaches and the Bill Gates, how they benefit from getting access to those minerals, which senior advisor to Africa for Donald Trump, Masad Boulos, said that those deals they're looking for those deals to be backed by the U.S. Export-Import Bank, by the International Finance Development Corporation. That means taxpayers' dollars, right, are going to be securing, they're being looking to secure these deals. And then we see in Doha, in Qatar, that of the $100 billion that Doha is now saying that they're going to invest, Qatar is going to invest in Africa, Congo is on the top of the list, right? They'll be getting $21 billion. So you see how everybody benefits, right? So that's why you get a deal that doesn't reflect reality when it talks about, if it's the Rwanda-backed M23, we mentioned, we did like a word search on the deal. It's an M23 that's been occupying Congo since 2022, Gaëtan. And in that deal, peace deal, M23 only mentioned 3 times. Mm-hmm. And one of those 3 is in the glossary, right? So how is it that this militia group that Rwanda commands and controls, and we're not even saying that, it's the whole world says that, because on February 25th of this year, in Resolution 1773, we see that the UN Security Council voted unanimously, 15-0, right? 15-0, unanimous. Israel Palestine didn't even get that, right? There's one objection, for Palestine and Israel, and this genocide is committing there. But the whole world, 15-0, said that Rwandan soldiers, they must withdraw immediately without any preconditions, right? Withdraw, Resolution 1773, without any. So for all intents and purposes, the Washington Accord jettisoned, threw away what the world was saying, and then colluded around the local, regional, and global elites in a plan that they stand to benefit from handsomely. If we believe African intelligence, he says a $3 trillion deal. I don't think it's that, but that's what they're saying. But what winds up happening, and what has happened since the modern founding of the Congo, is that the global elites benefit to the severe detriment of the local Congolese population. So that's the analysis. So what do we have to do? We have to continue to push the narrative about what's really happening. That's critical, right? Rwanda-backed M23, Rwanda on commanding and control, the global powers covering for Rwanda, right? In spite of UN resolutions that are on the table, the local elites in Kinshasa giving Rwanda a pass because that means that they get to stay in power and benefit themselves personally, right? We know the Congolese people are not benefiting. We know they're not acting in the interest of the Congolese people, because if they were acting in the interest of the Congolese people, then the question of justice would be center, right, to any deal that they do, right, and without any compromise, right? If there's a government that's acting in the interest of the Congolese people, then justice would be center, right? Accountability, right? An end to the impunity, the delivering of justice. That's what the people have been, that's what the women who came to Washington are saying. So we have to keep pushing on that and keep pressing in spite of what Washington is saying, in spite of what Doha is saying, in spite of what Kinshasa is saying, in spite of what Kigali is saying. We have to continue to stand with the masses of Congolese. And that means making a demand, or telling the truth around what's happening, straightening out the narrative. There's no such thing as defensive measures, right, that Rwanda talks about. They said, well, Congolese government has to go after the M23. We saw an interview. I wish every time we get on, I keep forgetting to send you that interview, or not interview, but a press conference that the Rwandan foreign minister gave at the United Nations. And a journalist asked them, when was the last time the FDLR attacked? When was the last time the FDLR attacked Rwanda, right? And he had to go back to 2019 not to the FDLR, Gaëtan, but he
Mm-hmm.
said an affiliate of the FDLR, right, attacked Rwanda, right? And there's been some 19 deaths. Now match that up. 2019, affiliate of FDLR, 19 deaths, but FDLR is mentioned 43 times in the peace accord. 43 times when the M23s occupied the space with Rwanda backing almost the size of Rwanda itself. So you just have to really cut through the propaganda and really, you know, get to the heart of the matter. And if you're covering, if continue to cover, and you know, the Congolese government is complicit in the covering of Rwanda's crimes right now. You know, they're in a weakened position, no doubt about it. But you had the whole world behind you in a 15-0 resolution at the United Nations that called for action against Rwanda. So why didn't the Congolese government mobilize ardently around that and rally the world around what the world has already agreed to? You know, so it's just.
I was looking for that
the answer is
video,
obvious. I'll send it to you. I'll see if I have it somewhere.
I think I've had it and
Yes.
combined it with many more. But it's kind of hard. I don't think I have it anymore, or it's
if
just
I find it
somewhere.
I'll share. But it's very telling. It's so important for people to see that video to get a sense of the threat that this Rwandan government is saying about the FDLR. You know,
let me see. I think I have it in. I have a whole folder, bunch of videos. Sometimes, Congo here.
Yeah. So as you I think I may have it here. As you look. Okay, here it is. I'll send it to you so you can.
Ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us.
I'll send it to you so it'll be at the top of your messages.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's near the end of the interview, which is so telling. That's something that we just need to share and, you know.
Can I let me share this? I think it's very interesting.
It may be worth playing the whole thing. Yes, it may be worth.
Yeah. Oh, just to be, it's really, it's gold. I think people need to watch that.
Okay, play so people can see when people talk about the FDLR, what the Rwandans say about the FDLR themselves. The Rwandan foreign minister.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. We are pleased to welcome Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Honorable Minister Olivier Nduhungirehe, who will brief us today following this morning's Security Council meeting on the security situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Without further ado, I invite the Honorable Minister who will open the floor for.
Thank you. Good afternoon. In large part, role.
Hold on. I want to go to the question.
Go to the Q&A.
Pamela Falk from U.S. News and World.
Okay, you can start.
I think it was our
security issue, Africa-led process.
No, you can start with the first questions. Go back to the initial questions.
Forward.
The first question?
DRC.
Yeah.
Report.
Yes, please.
Thank you for the stakeout. It's Pamela Falk from U.S. News and World Report. The UK ambassador today called for all Rwandan defense forces to leave DRC. How many of them are there now? Thank you.
There is a regional process, EAC SADC, which a way forward on how to deal with security issues and also political issues in Eastern DRC. So it's up to the region, to the Africa-led process to give us the way forward. It's not up to the United Kingdom to tell us what should be done. As for Rwanda, we have said on several occasions that we are under threat from the FDLR, under militias and forces in Eastern DRC. So we have deployed defensive measures along our border to defend ourselves against this threat. And this should not be confused with the M23, which is a Congolese movement defending a Congolese community. It's the M23 that took territories in Eastern DRC, including Goma and Bukavu. It's not Rwanda, because in Rwanda, we don't take territory in Eastern DRC. We have defensive measures which are targeted, dynamic, and proportionate to the threat.
Mr. Foreign Minister, if I can follow up, Gabriel Elizondo from Al Jazeera English, just to follow up on my colleague's question, how many troops do you have in the DRC?
He follows up because he hasn't answered.
And the council claims that you have half of your entire military is in the DRC. Is that true? If not, how many troops?
Of course, it's not true. I just answered to that question.
He did not.
I said that we should not confuse between M23 and Rwanda. M23 is a Congolese movement that took territories. It's the M23 that is in DRC because they are Congolese. Rwanda, we are defending our border with our defensive measures against the threat that was entertained for the past 30 years in Eastern DRC, namely the FDLR genocidal force and other militias and groups that are working for the Kinshasa government to overthrow the government of Rwanda, as the president of DRC clearly stated on several occasions. Yes,
Minister, Carrie Norton from Le Monde on RFI, Radio France Internationale. Can you tell us, you kept saying that you're under attack from the FDLR. Can you tell us what was the last attack from FDLR before the Goma battle? Just recently, what was the last attack from FDLR?
You know, since 2018, madam, we had, you asked me a question and I'm going to respond to you, madam. Since 2018, we had more than 20 attacks. The last one being on 26th of January, where 200 homes of Rubavu districts were deliberately targeted by the FRDC government. We had in 2022 shelling on our territory in March, in May, and in June with a clear objective to sabotage the holding of the Commonwealth Summit in Rwanda. And in 2019, we had, in October, 15 victims from the attack of a splinter group of the FDLR called Rud Urunana. And in 2018, we had also several attacks from June to December on our territory in southwest of the country, killing 9 people, including a young girl of 13 named Onela and a young boy of 17. So we have a threat and also attack on our territory. And in the council, I also said that just I think two weeks ago, we had the general, Brigadier General Ezekiel Gakwere, who was handed over, an FDLR general, and who was involved in the genocide against the Tutsi, and then who was in FDLR, FRDC uniform.
Any attack in 2024 in January before the Goma battle?
Mm-hmm.
There was constant attack. I told you that for the past 20 days, the past 7 years, since 2018, we have more than 20 attacks.
Before.
What kind of attack do you want me to give you, madam?
Because you keep saying you were under attack and by the FDLR. So,
madam, we had 16 deaths. People were killed in January. 200 homes, including schools, including hospitals, by the FRDC from the Goma airport. Doesn't sound.
By the way, I researched. I didn't find any, even Rwandan news, because I'm like that, right? Like I would go and find a Rwandan source of 200 homes or school
and hospitals
hospitals bombed. I did not see anything. Like even the own media did not report that.
Right.
But let's just
serious enough. After what?
What did it happen after or before the Goma was attacked?
Yes.
This was gold. He blocked me. I'm sad that he blocked me. Because,
he blocked you.
We could have had a really intellectual conversation, because whatever is being given, he doesn't even fact check it. Like at least plans, because there are governments out there that if they want to lie, they're actually gonna publish something that is false, so that when people Google it, they see, oh, there is reports that this happened when he never. They don't even bother to do it. Like the Rwandan government is so lazy, it doesn't even bother to manufacture a lie that will stand. And I think that's very insulting.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
the general, for example, the general that he mentioned, he was already arrested a year prior, a couple years before. It's mind blowing, brother Maurice. Like, they arrested the same person twice. They arrested him, and he was in Rwandan custody. And a couple years later, the same person, same name, from they're accused to be part of the FDLR. They said they arrested him again in the Congo. How did he even arrive in the Congo? He was under Rwandan custody a couple years ago. Oh, and then obviously, folks, Rwandan people, pro Kagame, coming at me and saying that there are many people who have that name. Many people who have that name that live in Kivu, and they are both part of the same terrorist group that you guys call like FDLR genocidaire. Too many coincidences.
And it's not just laziness, but also arrogance, because they know they can say anything. Like, I mean, I think the height of the arrogance, right, was when Paul Kagame was interviewed by CNN, right?
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, are your soldiers in the Congo?" And he said, "I don't know."
I have that video too.
He said, "I don't know." Right? So, but they can get away with this because there's no accountability, and the accountability is not just, we're not just talking about Gaëtan from government officials, but accountability from the media, the corporate media. It's not until lately that they started at least being somewhat accountable by printing somewhat accurately, Rwanda-backed M23. But if you can get on CNN and say, I don't know, when US, Western intelligence services, their allies, United Nations, most importantly, Congolese people on the ground in the Congo who are being killed by Rwandan soldiers. They said Rwandan soldiers are killing us, right? That's the most, the strongest case, the most viable articulation of what's happening is coming from the people who are the victims, of Rwanda's aggression. But even if you say everything he said was true, Gaëtan, and those numbers, and he calls the FDLR a threat, right? And those numbers that he gave, like 6 people dead, 19 dead, whatever, right? You match that up just to this year alone, 7,000 killed. In the occupation of Goma, in the prison break, 350, people, or I think it was up to 150 women who were
raped,
killed
and burned alive.
Raped and burned alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have 7 million people internally displaced, right? And I share with folks that if you take the 30-year span, right, that Rwanda says that it's been implementing these defensive measures, quote unquote, right? At least we have 6 million dead, at least, right? Those are the estimates that we have, mortality studies that we have data done on, right? 6 million dead, at least. So let's say 6 million. We currently have 7 million internally displaced in the Congo, right? That's 13 million, right? That's about the size of the population of Rwanda. So are you saying to the Congolese people that we have to kill and displace the size of our population in our country, kill and displace that many Congolese in order to protect us? Is that what you? I mean, it's insane, right?
Yeah.
The only other place you find that kind of reasoning and logic is in Palestine. Somebody said that, hey, Rwanda is just taken out of the playbook of Israel.
And they are.
The little Israel in Africa, because they're able to do it. They wouldn't be able to do what they're doing in the Congo without the long backing, because Rwanda is ready to serve itself up to protect the interests, carry the interests out of the West of the West in Africa.
And so, in Benjamin Netanyahu's own words, Rwanda is an extension of Israel in Africa. That's what he said.
There you have it. And I understand what he said, that when Netanyahu was but getting rid of, asylees, they sent him to Rwanda. Rwanda was right up there ready to serve. Kagame was ready to serve his boy, Netanyahu. and there are just so many other examples where I think even in one of the UN reports, one of the recent UN reports, they talk about Rwanda sending soldiers or sending officials to Israel to get trained in intelligence and other means. So they're part of that global network, that's the elite that's protected by the U.S.
And I know we're out of time, but I know that before I left, there was an ongoing effort to for the mineral deal, the economic portion of it, to be made public, at least to the Congress. And I know Friends of the Congo, alongside with other organizations, Public Citizen, one of them, and we actually co-wrote a report on I forgot the name of the report, the deadly cost of the cobalt.
Yeah.
And that lobby was done so that at least the U.S. Congress, and by saying U.S. Congress, we mean the American people, will know what the heck the U.S. government is doing in the Congo. And if we are talking about sending investors, we're talking about sending boots on the ground, we're talking about sending private contractors that are U.S. citizen veterans, we're talking about, a peace deal and an economic framework or cooperation that will involve American citizen, that the U.S. citizen also have to be aware of that, because on the other side, in the Congo, the Congolese government hasn't been transparent regarding that. They have been actually lying and saying that that the economic the economic deals, and that's that's the Minister of Information, the spokesperson of the government, Muyaya, who said that deal, the economic deal, had nothing to do with the peace deal that was signed in Washington, D.C. So can you tell us more about where we are in terms of that action of wanting those information to be made public or accessible, at least, because that's the right of people, American, to know what's going on?
Right. Yeah. And back in June, when the women came from the Congo, just the week before they came to Washington, they were speaking to different members of Congress, and they said they were going to call Masad Boulos, the senior advisor, up to the Hill. These are on the House side, to give a classified briefing on what was happening with the peace deal and the minerals deal. And the women the members of Congress were grateful to have the women there to share their point of view. So they said, when Masad Boulos comes up, we're going to pose some of these questions, raise some of these concerns that you have shared with us, which they did. And as a result of the women meeting with different members of Congress and committees, one of the most powerful committees in the U.S. Congress, the Ways and Means Committee, took up the mantle with the incredible work of Public Citizen and other advocacy groups in Washington to take on the issues that the women raised, and sent a letter to President Trump, Masad Boulos, for more transparency. Their top concerns, the concerns that members of Congress have, that the women shared with them, there's this, when it comes to deals, minerals deals and all, there needs to be prior and informed consent. That is, like, the folks in Manono need to be consulted, informed about what's going on, with these deals, for example. U.S. laws, as it relates to critical minerals, they talk about security. What are the security concerns in the mining communities? What is the environmental impact of you're going to invest in mines in those communities? What are the human rights conditions? What are the labor conditions? So all of these principles that apply to U.S. Mining in the U.S., the members of Congress are saying, well, let's start there, with in addition to the transparency and the prior and informed consent with whatever deal is going on. So you had over 50 members of Congress on the House side that sent a letter, and that process is ongoing. We're now pursuing members in the Senate to really calling on members of Congress to exercise their role, their oversight role, right? Because as I shared earlier, that Masad Boulos talks about the Export-Import Bank, talks about the International Finance Development Corporation, all playing a role to help secure the investments that are going to be made in the Congo. So this is just on the policy side, that what we can do in Washington. In addition to that, people go to freecongo.org. We're still amping up the call for members of Congress. I think we're up at 75,000 letters that's been sent to members of Congress through our online delivery campaign at freecongo.org. We like to get that up to 750,000, where we're U.S. taxpayers letting members of Congress know that they don't want their tax dollars fueling conflict in the Congo. Cut the aid, cut the military aid, cut the support that the U.S. has been giving to the Rwandan government. So that's on that side. And even more importantly, is it's ultimately the Congolese on the ground who are going to hold their government accountable, right? These deals that are happening, they're happening with the blessings and the cooperation of the Congolese government. So as a global community, we need to rally behind the Congolese people, those frontline organizations, in their movement building efforts, in their efforts to strengthen their organizations locally, so that they can defend their interests. That's really where the ultimate solution comes from. This is where, we can, sending how many letters we want to send it to members of Congress. We can set up as many meetings as we want with members of Congress. If local institutions in the Congo are not supported, are not strengthened, are not able to defend their interests against their own local elites who are plugged into the global elites, then the change that we're talking about or striving for and organizing around is not going to come about. You can boycott Apple from here till kingdom come, right? It's not going to change anything on the ground. You have to be supporting local institutions, right, to bring about change, for them to be strengthened, for them to be plugged into a global solidarity effort, so that they can hold the local elites accountable. So that's an ongoing project. We encourage people to go to freecongo.org, sign up, join the movement. We encourage you. We're going to have a global teach-in and action coming up from October 19th to 25th, where you're going to hear from frontline organizers in the Congo. You're going to hear from filmmakers. You're going to hear from research scientists. You're going to hear from activists. You're going to hear from, cultural workers. Congolese who are on the front lines, right? Thus far, Gaëtan, we have a collection of films, the Basanja film series, 3 films on the mining area alone, 2 films in the rainforest. This is where the Basanja Coalition is based. We're just in the process of completing a film on the peatlands. I saw some clips of it, just incredible. People talk about the peatlands and its importance to world fight against the climate crisis, right? The peatlands in the Congo Basin are the size of the country of England, right? And if they're not protected, the peatlands are not protected. It's an area where sediment and foliage is accumulated over thousands of years. They can release up to about 20 years of pollution that we get from the burning of fossil fuels in the US, right? However, when we talk about the peatlands, what's often left out is the people, the guardians of the peatlands. So the Basanja Coalition went into, I'm telling you have to see, I can't wait till that film comes out. It's just remarkable, right? There's this film that came out a number of years ago. I totally got the name of it. That is a blockbuster film, $1 billion film that came out with the aliens. I can't remember the name.
Alien versus Predator?
No, not Alien versus Predator. It was like these people were living in paradise, and then the Westerners came in with a, with
Avatar? I don't know.
anthropologists and all, and disturbing, their environment, and they fought back. They were using like machines, but anyways, it was just paradise that they were living in. If you see the film of the peatlands, I mean, the colors and the sound, it's just, I think even people in the Congo are not present to the beauty of the peatlands. They're just a remarkable diversity. But the center of it are the people. So that film is coming out. So we have 3 films that cover the mining areas from the bottom up, where we have the cobalt copper diggers that are at the bottom. 2 films that are dealing with the rainforest, one in the northeast, in the Chopo province, near the Yangambi Research Center, and then the peatlands it's Mbandaka in the Equator province in the west of the country. And then, of course, the film on the conflict in the east, a film called Katasumbika, that came out. All of these films are produced by the Basanja Coalition in collaboration with Alkibulan Films and Petna Ndaliko, the filmmaker. So Congo Week, from October 19th to 25th, you have an opportunity to hear from Congolese voices on the front lines. It's a platform, a global teaching, global call for action, and you'll be hearing from voices from the peatlands to the depths of the mining communities in the south, and on the front lines of the conflict in the east. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, Brother Maurice, thank you so
man.
much for holding it down while I was out, and for always bringing clarity to chaos.
Beautiful. Yeah, Free Congo. That's
Free
what we're up
Congo.
to.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to our viewers, thank you for tuning back in. Congo Unfiltered is not just a show where we talk. It is a platform for truth, justice, and most importantly, resistance. So like, share, repost, stay connected, stay loud, and stay unfiltered. See you next time.
Peace.